this there's a lot, there's a lot coming up in these few weeks, um, between the question of doing and non-doing, having a technique or throwing all techniques away. And, if that's coming up for you, in terms of a next step, it's sort of perfectly fine. I always seem to resonate or go towards, at the beginning, when you're learning something new, that a technique helps, that having a technique actually helps, that focusing, allowing yourself, asking yourself to actually do something during meditation, during a formal practice, actually can help. And the way that I've sort of described in the past is, it actually helps understand the nature of the mind. And then once we can understand the nature of the mind, then we can maybe rest in awareness. And then all techniques get thrown out, essentially. But the techniques can be very, very powerful. Breathing being one of them, especially as life throws us, into knee surgery or stressors that come up, knowing not only that we could focus on our breath from a, gee, my mind is everywhere perspective, and I just wish to kind of, shepherd the mind, as we said, right? Shepherd the thoughts, et cetera, and bring it in, that I can try to focus on one thing like the breath. But we've also studied it and reviewed it and gone over it in this class as a direct link to the nervous system. And so if we're feeling stressed, that if we focus on our breathing or do conscious breathing or slow our breath down, that we're actively activating our parasympathetic nervous system, that we know that. And so that's a technique that can be useful when we feel like our sympathetic nervous system is being fired, like a surgery, right? Or a stressful event that's happening in life, or whatever it might be, worrying about finances, et cetera, et cetera. So techniques, in my opinion, are very, very, very helpful, very, very, very useful. But then you may get to a point, maybe not when you're getting, not if you're having surgery, because having those techniques can help. But you may get to a point where you may want to try, right, just kind of getting rid of any technique. And today's little thing is, what an extraordinary thing meditation is. If there is any kind of compulsion, effort to make thought conform, imitate, then it becomes a wearisome burden. The silence which is desired ceases to be illuminating. If it is in the pursuit of visions and experiences, then it leads to illusions and self-hypnosis. Only in the flowering of thought, and so ending thought, does meditation have significance. Thought can only flower in freedom, not in ever-widening patterns of knowledge. Knowledge may give newer experiences of greater sensation, but a mind that is seeking experiences of any kind is immature. Maturity is the freedom from all experience, if it is no longer under any influence to be or not to be. Maturity in meditation is the freeing of the mind from knowledge, for it shapes and controls all experience. A mind which is a light to itself needs no experience. Immaturity is the craving for greater and wider experience. Meditation is the wandering through the world of knowledge and being free of it to enter into the unknown. To enter into the unknown. And there are certain patterns that maybe you've noticed yourself doing. I've definitely noticed myself doing. Is going for the experience, and to even right as you notice that urge, to even throw that away, to drop that. Oh wow, I have this urge to go towards this experience. I have an urge to go towards quieting of the mind. I have an urge towards going to this or going towards that. And just, almost sort of like you're experimenting with yourself. Oh, wow, I noticed that urge. Let me even just drop that urge. Let me drop any urge. Let me drop any technique, any quest for knowledge, desire to know, et cetera, and just go into the present moment, go into the unknown, which is why I believe his first book, or the book that he's most popular for publishing, is Freedom from the Known. Freedom from the known. Of we're doing all these things to gain knowledge and experience, and so we actually want to go beyond that, and go to the unknown. So if that if that resonates with you or not, there may be a point in your practice where, for instance, you may be at the point in your practice where this doesn't resonate at all, right? Where it's like, wow, this technique is helping me so much. Just learn how to focus and concentrate and be present. That's absolutely perfect. You might get to the point in your practice where there's this sense of knowledge gathering, or seeking experience, and to notice that, right? Oh yeah, I'm sort of going into it, seeking experience. Many times, I've heard it. Jack Kornfield tells many stories. He gets a lot of questions after meditations, like, oh, this is, I felt this and this and this, what does that mean? And a lot of times he just says, it means that you felt this and this and this. It's like, you don't really make any, it's like you want this sort of like, you want this like, oh my goodness, you had that experience, like, wow, that, that means that you've graduated into the world of, master, whatever that is. And there's and many times, the student is seeking those things. There's another quote, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it goes something to the degree of, if you are seeking something, you will not find it, but it seems to be that seekers often find it. So there's sort of like, if I have this intent, like, this really strong desire to let's say, attain awakening or enlightenment or some sort of stillness of the mind or whatever that is, that I may not get there. But just in the seeking, that there may actually be a moment where that actually arises, and it's actually not in the seeking itself. So just seeing how that resonates with you or not. There's definitely sometimes, I know for me, where it's like, there's a lot of doing, and being able to drop the doer can help. One has to find out for oneself, not through anybody, We have had the authority of teachers, saviors, and masters. If you really want to find out what meditation is, you have to set aside all authority completely and totally. And that's, I've spoken about this as well, is authenticity. Right? Many people, it's sort of like they mask their experience with things that they've read or things that they have assumed from others, or whatever it might be, and that in the practice, I highly recommend just being totally and purely authentic with yourself. Right? What's your experience? I don't know what what could happen or what you felt or what it is, but what's your experience? It doesn't matter what any of the books say or any of spiritual teachers or leaders say or whatever it might be. What is your experience? And that to me is that constant inquiry, the constant observation, the constant listening to ourselves, the constant watching ourselves, and coming from that space of awareness. Happiness and pleasure you can buy in any market at a price. But bliss you cannot buy, either for yourself or for another. Happiness and pleasure are time-binding. Only in total freedom does bliss exist. Pleasure, like happiness, you can seek and find in many ways, but they come and go. Bliss, that strange sense of joy, has no motive. Isn't that interesting? This strange sense of joy. I feel like what Yolanda was talking about, it's kind of fun, that funness, like that strength. It's kind of like that there's a strange sense to that. It's like, this is kind of fun. It's like that joy, that strange sense of joy has no motive. You cannot possibly seek it. It emerges. Once it is there, depending on the quality of your mind, it remains timeless, causeless, a thing that is not measurable by time. Meditation is not the pursuit of pleasure or the search for happiness. Meditation, on the contrary, is a state of mind in which there is no concept or formula, and therefore total freedom. It is only to such a mind that this bliss comes, unsought, uninvited. Once it is there, though, you may live in the world with all its noise, pleasure, and brutality. They will not touch that mind. Once it is there, conflict has ceased. But the ending of conflict is not necessarily the total freedom. Meditation is the movement of the mind in this freedom. In this explosion of bliss, the eyes are made innocent, and love is then benediction. So again, this lack of desire, right? There's sort of like a so we're working on kind of like training the mind, focusing, concentrating, dropping activity, not going for that pleasure, right? Because when we're going for the pleasure or the happiness, then we're on the pleasure pain cycle. If we're experiencing pleasure, this is almost like that. We're not. It's not that it doesn't exist. It does exist, but you're sort of like on a different track in essence. But it's not about the pleasure and pain. That it's essentially that life is blissful despite everything that's happening. So it's not that conflict isn't going to exist, right? It's not that you're going to go live in a world of like perfect utopia or something like that. It's that you're actually going to live in this world. You're going to be in this world. You're going to totally be in this world, present, with that sense of bliss, and that meditation can actually hone our mind to allow that to emerge. We're not seeking it. It's not actually something that we're going towards. That becomes an experience, but that emerges sort of as a byproduct of the practice, in essence. And I like that. Once it is there, depending on the quality of the mind, it remains timeless, causeless, a thing that is not measurable by time. It's not like something you say, oh, when I was blissful. It's like, oh no, bliss is ever present. Like, oh, I was happy when I bought my new car, I was happy, but then, 2 weeks later I crashed it and then I was not happy anymore. But in the buying of the new car and crashing it, the bliss remains. We all get to be in this strange sense of joy, right? So there's kind of a theme, right, that's emerging. You see his theme. You see the theme that emerges, and that's only 20 pages into the book. That's only 20 pages in the book. Right. So there's this doing meditation that meditation becomes your life. It just becomes, it's like something that it's not like we got to go sit over there in that corner and face the wall or go into the cave or isolate ourselves, or it's like, I'm going to the grocery store, I'm paying my bill, I'm in a constant state of meditation. I'm aware, I'm watching myself, I'm listening to myself, I'm inquiring, I'm observing. That there's no seeking, that it's purely opening up to that unknownness of the emergence of the presence. As I try to control anything, as I try to control the mind, let's say, as I try to decrease thought, that actually causes more stress. And so as I observe it, as I just notice it, the frequency may start to change, decrease, and then silence emerges. When that silence emerges, a sensation may emerge as well of bliss or love. I do not know if you have ever noticed that when you give total attention, there is complete silence. And in that attention, there is no frontier, there is no center, as the me who is aware or attentive. That attention, that silence, is a state of meditation. That goes into total focused attention. Oftentimes, they actually call that a state of flow. We hardly ever listen to the sound of a dog's bark, or to the cry of a child, or the laughter of a man as he passes by. This is interesting because, infants do this incredibly. And my daughter now is, she's 16 months old, and she will hear something in the distance, and her attention will just go there, and she'll look at me and she'll go, "Did you hear that?" I'm like, "What are you hearing? What in the world are you hearing?" Why? What am I hearing? I'm just hearing the thoughts that are in my head. And she'll hear something. She'll hear like, a dog barking, and it seems like it's like 10 miles away. Or we live probably a mile away from our metro, the train, like the public transportation. She can hear the train going on the train tracks. She's like, and she does this adorable little thing where she puts her mouth in like an O, like Did you? And now she's doing that. She's even doing. I'm like, what are we listening to? What are we listening to? We separate ourselves from everything, and then from this isolation, look and listen to all things. It is this separation that is so destructive, for in that lies all conflict and confusion. Right? I mean, what do? Right? I hear a loud truck go by, and I'm like, get rid of that loud truck. It is this separation that is so destructive. If you listen to the sound of those bells with complete silence, you would be riding on it. Or rather, the sound would carry you across the valley and over the hill. That's kind of what I feel like my daughter's doing. Right? She feels it, and it's like, oh, wow, listen to that. Listen to that sound. Like that sound is carrying her, right? And she's trying to make me privy to that by pointing it out. The beauty of it is felt only when you and the sound are not separate. And she's merging with that sound. There is a clear, like, when you are part of it. Meditation is the ending of the separation, not by any action or will or desire. Meditation is not a separate thing from life. Meditation is not a separate thing from life. It is the very essence of life, the very essence of daily living. To listen to those bells, to hear the laughter of that peasant as he walks by with his wife, to listen to the sound of the bell on the bicycle of the little girl as she passes by. It is the whole of life, and not just a fragment of it, that meditation opens. Okay, finding a comfortable posture. Posture, you will feel relaxed yet alert. Closing your eyes if you feel comfortable closing your eyes. If not, having a soft downward gaze. And taking 2 or 3 deep breaths. And really allowing yourself to feel your feet on the floor or whatever surface they're on. To feel your hands or forearms supported by their surface. Bringing attention to our whole body. Being here now with all the sensations. Thoughts, emotions present in this moment. Just sort of taking an inventory, seeing what is present. What is coming up for you right now? And just noting if we're seeking anything. Are we trying to attain any particular state? Do we want the present moment to be different than the moment that is arising? Are we clinging to a desire of a want, a sensation? And if we are, simply noticing that, bringing awareness to that urge, that want. And seeing if just for this moment we can allow the present moment to unfold just as it is. That since it's unfolding right now for us, it must be perfect. Because it is. It is here, right now, appearing. And we rest in that. That we're not seeking for happiness or pleasure, for more money, less pain. That we're simply being in this moment. Just as it is. Allowing the silence to rise. And that bliss to unfold. Just noticing where your mind is now. Has it been taken over by thought or resting in silence? Wherever you may be, just simply notice it, observing, watching, listening. Allowing yourself to be here now. Trusting in the process, the unfoldment of the present moment. And if you're using any technique that's helping you keep focus or concentration, see if for a few seconds you can let that technique go. Allowing the meditative mind to emerge. Listening to yourself breathe. Listening to yourself move. Listening to yourself think. Whatever it is, being aware, being aware. And as we bring this meditation to a close, just seeing if you can expand this meditative mind into your daily practice, into your everyday activities, into every moment. And now, taking 2 or 3 deep breaths, feeling your fingers and toes, opening your eyes if your eyes were closed, stretching or moving if you need to stretch, and just taking a moment to reflect on your practice.